Good day everyone, good day ma'am. I'm Elaiza Taculod, and right now I'm going to report the Chapter 7, Organizing the Physical Facilities. The physical facilities of an industrial enterprise consist of first, the manufacturing plant, second, the building and premises, and the third, the machine and equipment necessary to make a product or range of products in the quantities desired. In the organization of these facilities, the following main steps are required. A. Selection of the plant location. B. Selection and erection of buildings. C. Selection of the equipment. D. Plant and machine layout. And lastly, E. Installation of the equipment. So first, we're going to tackle about the selection of the plant location. The decision as to the location of an industrial plant has a vital effect on the success or failure of the operation of such plant. The decision, therefore, should be based upon a careful consideration of all the factors pertinent to the particular enterprise. The nature of the factors involved in the plant location varies among industries, and with changing technical and economic conditions, some industries in the location of necessary plants are influenced by the markets, others are located around the sources of powers, still others seek the source of raw materials. In the selection of plant location, the following considerations should be taken into account: determining the region, determining the community, and choosing the plant site. So determining the region. Determining the region in which the plant is to be located requires consideration of 5 prime factors, namely proximity to market, proximity to necessary materials, transportation facilities, and adequate public and private services such as water, power, fuel, gas, and etc. And lastly, the climate. So first, we're going to discuss about the proximity to market. So there has been established a relationship between the centers of population and manufacturing, a relationship indicating that industry in general tends to seek its market. The tendency of a plant to locate near its market has been evident. So the second is the proximity to raw materials. The raw material, a factor in production, is very vital to consider when processing removes considerable weights. For example, it is much cheaper to manufacture cement at a place where raw materials are. Thus, our cement plants are in Cebu, La Union, Bulacan, and Rizal, very near to the limestone mines where the raw materials come from. Another good example that may be mentioned is the meatpacking industry located at Chicago or Kansas City in the United States. So on the other hand, if the material is readily mobile, or if the cost of moving it is small in relation to its value, then the source of material is only a minor consideration. So proximity to the market may prevail. So third is the transportation facilities. So if the business requires continued transportation either of raw materials in or finished products out, or of both, the convenience of transportation facilities has a real bearing on the economical conduct of the business. So when the material is heavy or bulky, its transportation is directly tied in with the optimum means of transportation. For instance, water transportation, if available, though slow, is the most economical way to ship bulky freight such as oil, iron, or coal. Railway and motor truck are quite faster but higher in cost. Air transportation is the fastest, but due to its excessive cost. The fourth is the adequate public and private service. Manufacturing thrives in an area where the supply of power and water is plentiful, as illustrated by the following. So first, the manufacture of fertilizers requires the location near in sample supply of power, as in the case of the Marcella fertilizer plant near the Mar Cristina, hydroelectric power plants in Mindanao, or of aluminum, as in the case of Reynolds Aluminum Company located in Epifanio de los Santos Avenue, Quezon City. So second, the huge public water power projects of the Thames Valley and several American western states are indicative of the importance of adequate power to successful industrial economy. So third is the need of large amounts of water in addition to air conditioning to dissipate large amounts of heat generated by some present-day manufacturing processes. And the fourth is the locating of the principal plant for processing of the atomic bomb components at Harvard, Washington, due to the one of the best source of pure cold water provided by the Columbia River, in addition to advantages of isolation and abundant volume for process cooling. All of these indicate the need for abundant sources of power and water by many kinds of industries. So lastly, the fifth is the climate. So in certain industries, the nature of the climate, temperature, and humidity is a factor that assume considerable importance. The manufacturer of shoes in Marikina, Rizal, for example, prefers a moist climate because he does not wish the leather that he uses to dry out so rapidly. So the manufacturer of airplanes seek a climate that make possible the year-round testing of his finished products. The recent developments in air conditioning have tended to lessen the importance of the climate factor. At one time, Mount Province was discovered the most desirable action combination in which to locate a textile industry. Now that it is possible to control the humidity of the air manufactured by mechanical means, Mount Province does not have the same advantages over certain other sections of the country. Next is determining the community. Once the general area of region has been determined, the selection of a particular community is next. The best choice of a community for the plant depends upon the consideration of the following factors. So first is the labor supply, wage scales, other enterprises in the community, taxes, and restricting laws. So first is the labor supply. Labor supply means the number of skilled and unskilled persons available for the kind of work to be done. It is very essential that the required kind of labor should be available as needed, and at a reasonable rate of wage. There must be a ready supply, especially so at the time of business expansion. The second is the wage scales or differentials. Wage scales or differentials also affect community location. However, these are not permanent and should not be considered as definite or specific factors in locating a plant site in any community. It is a fact that wages constitute a big item in the company's expenses and savings, which could be saved through wage lower lower wage rates are of important consideration. It is a fact that wages constitute a big item in the company's expenses and savings, which could be saved through lower wage rates, are of important consideration. So third is the other industries in the community. Oftentimes, competing or complementary enterprises in a community influence the decision on the selection of a plant site. So competing industries may drain the supply of certain types of labor skills, with the result that these industries become competitive with each other. With such conditions existing, that place is therefore not a good site for the business. Complementary industries, particularly where the finished product of one is the materials for another, are respectively near the market and source of materials. Such an arrangement can work to their mutual advantage. So as good examples of complementary industries, we have the mining industry and the machinery industry, whereby the former produces materials which are converted into big iron, which in turn is manufactured into tools in machineries, by the latter to be used by the first industry or the mining industry. So the fourth is the industrial attitude of the community. The attitude and cooperatives of the community as a whole are some importance. An anti-industry or an anti-company attitude sometimes cannot be overcome by the best public relations men. A community beset with labor union strike, factions, and inter-union squabbles or politics does not generate a healthy atmosphere in which new plans are encouraged to settle. The fifth is taxes and restricting laws. Provincial and town legislation are also important. The corporation laws are more stringent in some countries than in others, and some enterprises located in a particular country almost for that reason alone. So thus many American vessels fly the flag of Panama. A ceramic factory did not build its plant in a town where the raw material exists because it feared discriminatory or oppressive municipal regulation. Oil companies analyze the situation in many towns before they decide to open their big refineries. So choosing the plant site. So after determining the region and the community in it, the final step is, of course, the selection of the exact plant site. in the company with the following factors to consider. So first is the land, transportation, and miscellaneous conditions pertaining to surroundings. So the land. In the search for a site, the principal consideration is the land, whether it is simple in size or ample, including room expansion as well as parking space for employee cars, whether the topography is right for the type of building desired, and whether the soil, texture, and drainage will provide proper foundations. The second is transportation. The other factor second in importance is the transportation, whether the site is readily accessible motor, water, or air transportation as may be required. Could employees, for instance, reach the place even with or without transportation of their own? Will the roads enable easy entrance of raw materials and supplies and easy exit of products? The third is the surrounding. The third factor has something to do with the surroundings of the site relative to the following questions. Will it be a good place for the employees to work? Zoning. Two, are there building and zoning restrictions that will not permit the type of building planned? Third is the community fire protection adequate and available to the site? So general consideration. Plant location today is generally a matter of cost tempered with circumstances. Theoretically, the most favorable location of a plant is that place where, in consideration of business as a whole, the total cost of producing and delivering goods to all the customers is the lowest. Actually, however, the decision as to plant location is not always based on reason. For more times than management is willing to admit, corporate or financial ties of the enterprise, of personal whims of some top executive exercise the balance of power. In this regard, circumstance then takes precedence over cause. Loyalty to a hometown or even superstition caused by a dream may affect the decision to build a plant. Present trend in planned location. The tendency is to locate plants in the proximity of cities rather than in rural areas or directly in cities. The suburban areas offer practically all advantages, facilities, and services supplied by city areas and possess the added advantages of lower assessment values and have sufficient land space to spread out the plants to allow for expansion and to provide parking areas for the employees' cars. Selection and erection of buildings. The choice of the building depends upon its suitability to the nature, purposes, and requirements of the business. Heavy manufacturing, for instance, call for strong or sprawling buildings, while a retail store needs a situation that will adequate display of merchandise. An office, on the other hand, requires light and air and freedom from unnecessary noise. So we have here the types of building. So there are two basic types of buildings, namely the single-story building and the multi-story building. So each offers certain definite advantages, the relative merits of which should be weighed with respect to the requirements of the enterprise involved. So we have here the advantages of single-story over the multi-story. So first is the greater ease of expansion or extension to existing building is made possible. The second is there is less vibration where sensitive equipment and materials are employed together with heavy machinery. The third is the soil requirements for foundations are less severe. The fourth is there is a better natural light and ventilation, which is cheaper and hygienically preferable to air conditioning and artificial lighting. The fifth, if there is more usable floor space, there is more usable floor space in a sense because no space is required for elevators and stairways. The sixth is there is more efficient routine possible and lower materials handling cost. And the seventh is better supervision is made possible when the supervisor or executive does not have to go up and down several factors. So we have also here the advantages of the multi-story over the single-story buildings. So first is more efficient use of land space, particularly where the space is limited or expensive, can be held where business cannot spread out, it can always go up. Lower cost of construction per square foot of floor space is In another advantage, the upper floors are often mirror reputations of lower floors. It is cheaper to heat because of less roof and other space through which heat can escape. It is also cheaper to cool where air conditioning is necessary. Upper stories are more free from street noises, odors, and dirt. And fifth is use of gravity flow of materials is permitted. The flow of production from one stage to another may be facilitated by the gravity flow of products and materials. So we have here also the present trends in building construction. Present trends in building construction. Allied with the present trend toward the location of planned suburban areas is the trend towards the erection of single-story buildings. Flexibility of plant layouts and lower routine and materials handling costs, among other things, comprise strong inducements to management to erect single-story structures. Spacing of columns. The present thought on the spacing of columns is in direction of wider and higher interiors. Undoubtedly, this trend has been influenced by the increased need in recent years for flexibility to meet rapidly changing conditions in manufacturing. Use of basement. The basement and sub-basement are being used more and more for the storage of raw materials for dead storage. For service tunnels and for employee servicing facilities, there are corridors through which employees pass on their way to and from the work areas above. Likewise, located in the corridors and the locker rooms, washrooms, and maybe an air-conditioned cafeteria, the use of corridors prevents confusion and interference that occur during the change of the work shift. Welding. So one of the great difficulties with solid concrete walls is their inflexibility. In case of unavoidable changes, for instance, great expense will be incurred as such changes are rather costly. Roofings. The sawtooth roofings have deserved more preference or popularity than the flat roofs due to improvement in natural lighting offered by the former and sometimes of the lower initial and subsequent maintenance costs. Flooring. The present-day industrial buildings, especially those which have heavy machinery installation, require solid floorings, concrete or tiles are most often used. New noise-absorbing and less jarring tiles which are highly durable, fairly inexpensive, and easy to maintain are quite common. Present trends in building installation. The building installation and facilities mentioned in here are those to which industry is today devoting major attention. They comprise the current trends in management thinking as regards installation for better process control and manufacturing efficiency as well as for employees' increased comfort and safety which pay dividends in the form of greater productivity and lower accident compensation costs. The building installation and facilities which are given major attention are the following. First is the plant elimination. So good elimination in a plant pays for itself in greater productivity, efficiency, improved morale of employees, fewer accidents, and better housekeeping. Light and paint when used together comprise a team which can vanish darkness and one without the other will only have do the work. Fluorescent lighting. There is a strong trend today in the direction of fluorescent lighting. It's a type of artificial lighting most widely used by industry today, which has replaced incandescent light to a great extent. The principles of fluorescent lighting is the glow produced by ultraviolet rays in a tube coated inside with fluorescent powder. So fluorescent lighting offers the following advantages. First is it is practically glireless, can be made to simulate daylight and greatly improves night working conditions. Its operations is cooler than of incandescent or mercury lamps, particularly where air conditioning is installed. It is more economical in operation, for example, 100 watts of fluorescent lighting being approximately equivalent in foot candle illumination to 300 watts of incandescent lighting. That's the end of my report. Thank you and God bless.